This ExJW tale is sponsored by the Seeds of Awakening Patreon community. Join for free and become part of the movement. Beacons.ai/SOA links. Link in bio or description.
I did not wake up like normal people do. My
Mhm.
ex accused me of apostasy, and I got cut off literally overnight. My whole life, it's like, why even bother even finishing school, really? Because Armageddon's tomorrow. Here we are. We weren't educated. A lot of us didn't have much financial literacy or anything like that. And so then the value of investing in ourselves is just like absolutely bottom on the totem pole. When I got out of the religion, there was so much that I had no idea about. Beliefs like, I'm 38 years old starting from scratch. Is it too late? I don't have an education. Maybe it's impossible to be successful without an education. I don't have any life experience. I mean, all of those things that go through your mind when you've lost your entire world. It took about 6 years to go from homeless in a backpack to retired on 40 acres in Ecuador on a healing retreat. So this stuff works.
Today we're discussing a topic that affects all ExJWs, and that is mindset and money, or your money mindset. This is Seeds of Awakening. I'm the host of the Money Channel. This is your home for ExJW tales, stories from people who walked away from the high control legion known as Jehovah's Witnesses. Please like, comment, subscribe, smash that notification bell, or share this interview. Today I'm talking to a friend of Seeds of Awakening. She's Deanna Moore. She's been here before to share her story, but today she's talking about the experience that led her to start helping people manifest more money. What do you mean, money manifest more money? All that Deanna explained. Let's meet her and welcome her back right now. So we have Deanna Moore back in the house. Deanna, it's been a while. I'm glad to see you. How's everything going?
Everything is going really, really well. I've had plant medicine retreats that I've been hosting. I have been going crazy, 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 but I should be calm for the next couple of months. So I'll be back.
Mhm. Yeah, we're doing those little side episodes for a while back to back to back, and then we kind of fell off. So it's good to get you back here on an episode.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so just to give the audience a sense of your background, your experience with JWs, why don't you talk a little bit about your background? And I know you've done some NLP coaching and that sort of thing.
38 years in the religion, over 20 as a regular pioneer, fifth generation. So I come from like the hardcore old school Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, like the new version of Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't even know that I would even recognize it anymore.
No, me neither.
But I'm glad for it because it seems like there are people waking up in droves, droves and droves. So welcome to the dark side, people.
Yeah, I want to
Welcome.
say I posted a couple of your snippets to TikTok, and you're getting a lot of traction, a lot of interest in some of your videos on TikTok too. So don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever looked at that avenue to get your message out there, but that might be a good place.
Well, that's the other thing that's kind of had me a little bit distracted over the last couple of months. My YouTube channels have also kind of blown up. The Spanish one went from like 58 followers to 29,000.
Wow.
I've got several viral videos going, and it's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. It's the mindset. It's how to improve, improving your life through the coaching tools and mindset. And I think what I specifically like about your conversations, you and I's conversations, you and I's conversations,
Our conversation.
is that, what I really know that for me personally, when I got out of the religion, there was so much that I had no idea about, the power of the mind. I mean, I didn't even really realize I was in a cult, like most of us.
Yeah, most
And
people don't.
yeah, we didn't even realize it. And none of us fully realize how blocked we are because of the brainwashing and the indoctrination. And it's not even about the religion. It's about day-to-day things that haunt us post religion. You know what?
Mhm.
Just like, for example, I remember when I first got out of the religion, my partner at the time, I happened to say something like, "Oh, you know what? Is this shirt too low or is this skirt too tight?" And he looked at me, he's like, "What the hell is wrong with you? You're a grown woman. Wear whatever you want," you know?
Yep.
It's just simple things like that, that bleed over into our post-cult life. And, I think today we're gonna be talking about money and how you wouldn't necessarily think that religion and money are connected, but we got brainwashed with our beliefs about careers, money, potential. And so that's something that can really, really hinder us as we're wanting to thrive in the outside world.
Don't believe anymore? Before you're labeled an apostate or worse, there's a way out. Introducing Escape the Tower, the PMO Playbook, the unauthorized tactical guide to fading quietly and strategically. Learn how to disappear without announcing your exit. Download your free version now. Exit smart. Beacons.ai/SOA links. Link in bio or description.
I didn't even go to school.
Wow.
No, I was homeschooled. And, forget about any sort of higher education. I mean, absolutely none of that. I remember, my whole life, it's like, why even bother even finishing school, really? Because Armageddon's tomorrow.
And you're still not
And,
here.
the amount of people that are in bare minimum, so this is one thing that I think got brainwashed into us is sustenance and covering. You have sustenance and covering, and that's enough to be happy.
Mhm.
You know, um, we lived with that mindset, totally paycheck to paycheck, totally a month to month, and the disempowerment too. I think that's probably one of the main things that I want to talk about today is the disempowerment of, Jehovah will provide. There's like this outside, just kind of sit there and wait for it to be okay,
Mhm.
which is a very disempowering victim mindset.
Yep.
In a lot that affects a lot of categories, but especially the financial category.
It's not taking responsibility for either your finances, your personal plight, or your success in life.
Exactly,
You're
exactly.
putting it all on an external source that may or may not really help you.
And it actually does not. It actually actively sabotages you
Mhm.
to not embrace your power financially. I mean, I've been coaching for 20 some years, and I think that's another mindset too. Maybe it's because of the lack of education, the lack of value of education. But a lot of people coming out of the cult, they don't even have an appreciation for
Mhm.
investing in themselves. I worked a lot with Mormons for a long time when I lived in Utah. And I think one of the differences it seems like between the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witness culture, at least the Mormons were a little bit more personal development, personal growth. They have
More
their own
education, they got BYU.
oriented versus we were so hampered growing up as in Jehovah's Witnesses religion that anything psychology, anything self-help was so frowned upon. Not only was it frowned upon, it was actively sabotaged as spiritual weakness, not relying on Jehovah, and carrying that out of the religion is a huge disadvantage because
Mhm.
here we are, we weren't educated. A lot of us didn't have much financial literacy or anything like that. And so then the value of investing in ourselves is just like absolutely bottom on the totem pole. And it's kind of one of the things that we need the most in
Definitely.
order to heal ourselves and get our life back after we've wasted so much time in the religion.
Mhm. You kind of had a weird kind of situation where you were kind of learning about NLP and coaching while you were kind of leaving the organization and still helping Mormons do that. So you kind of like were kind of led in your new career path, which allowed you to make an income. You now live in Ecuador. Why don't you talk about that path a little bit for yourself?
So that was so providential because I actually got my certification for doing the neuro-linguistic programming in 2005. I was neck deep in the religion still. And I was coaching real estate agents on money mindset, on, helping brand new agents do $1 million their first year. creating financial wealth. And so at the time, I think I was almost about 30 when I started learning about mindset. Eventually during that time period too, still being in the religion, I became a mortgage broker. So I did get a lot of financial literacy that I think a lot of us lack in the religion. But what happened with the Mormons specifically is, I'm working on mindset. I'm working on with entrepreneurs, creating their, growing their business and everything. And then they would come to me and they'd be like, so like when your financial life is a disaster, a lot of times it's because your personal life is a disaster. So they'd come to me and they'd be like, well, you probably don't understand this, but we just got excommunicated from our religion. We've just lost everything. And being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I was still neck deep. I mean, I didn't realize that I was a cult too, but I did understand what it's like to be disfellowshipped, excommunicated, having to rebuild your world from scratch. So I had created this program for the Mormons that was kind of like this rehabilitation program, how to create a future for yourself, how to let go of the past, how to dream healing. Anyway, not even imagining that 10 years in the future I was going to need that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got out in 2014, I lost everything. I don't know how many of your followers know what happened to me, but
I think a few
I
of them do, but maybe some of them are watching this for the first time, so I don't
mine
know.
was crazy. I did not wake up like normal people do. My
Mm-hmm.
ex accused me of apostasy, and I got cut off literally overnight. And I wasn't even apostate. It was kind of a power move on his part. But literally overnight, everybody thought I was an apostate. My family, I lost over 50 family members. I lost my kids. I lost my job, house. I mean, it's like a terrible country song. I literally lost everything. And I was in such a place of devastation. I mean, I was literally homeless and living out of a backpack. I, being in the religion my entire life, 20 years as a regular pioneer, I didn't even know anybody that wasn't one of Jehovah's Witnesses, literally. And being homeschooled, I didn't even have classmates that I could go and be like, hey, remember we went to kindergarten together? I mean,
Yeah.
I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing except the reprogramming tools that I had with the neuro linguistic programming. And so the first thing I did is I sat down and I was like, okay, all right, well, I'm going to have to get my life together because I have a blank slate. I got to recreate everything from scratch. And the first thing that I started working on is the money beliefs. I already had, like I said, I had already had some of a background with the finances, with real estate, with helping other people reprogram their limiting beliefs. But that's really where I started was, okay, here I am out of the religion. I knew that whatever thoughts I had in my mind, those were things I was going to end up creating, even if it was on accident. So beliefs like, I'm 38 years old starting from scratch. Is it too late? I don't have an education. Maybe it's impossible to be successful without an education. Um, I don't have any life experience. I mean, all of those things that go through your mind when you've lost your entire world. I had to start restructuring. I restructured all of that. And within about 6 years, it took about 6 years to go from homeless in a backpack to retired on 40 acres in Ecuador on a healing retreat. So this stuff works. I mean, this is what I'm talking about too. When people leave the religion, most people, I mean, I had that advantage that I had read the book The Secret, that I had already intensively studied the power of the mind. At the time I was like, oh, this is how Jehovah answers prayers. This is how Jehovah blesses us. And this is how he's going to bring us to perfection. So I understood the concepts of energy and the concepts of manifesting. I just kind of still had it under that umbrella of religion. So
Mm-hmm.
once I took the umbrella of religion off, that's when it really exploded. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? Being created in God's image takes on a whole new meaning when you're not in a cult. What it literally means is we have the power to create anything that we want. We have the power to create any life that we want. We
And
just
the
have to
thing
be
is,
determined to do it.
and the thing is, this stuff works whether or not you're Jehovah's Witness, whether or you're religious or not. It really goes for anyone. And before we go further, I just want to say that if anyone has not seen Dina's first interview that she did with me, I think called it the Apostate Pioneer. Please watch that episode if you've not seen her story because it's really like a movie, really, on how she got kicked out of the witnesses and rebuilt her life. So definitely an inspiration. So you know a lot about how to take yourself from zero to success. So what would you say was the first thing you did, Dina?
Yeah, so that was where I started, was with the finances, because once you've got your money life under control, everything else is a whole lot easier. You know what? Recently, actually a couple weeks ago, I just did a video in Spanish about how religion actually sabotages wealth.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of reason for that. There's a lot of reasons for that. Not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but religion in general. People who are afraid and people who are poor are very easy to control. So religions in general, not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but religions in general have taken scriptures like, the sustenance and covering. It's harder for a camel to get through an eye of a needle than a rich man to get into the kingdom of God. Love of money is the root of all evil. They have cherry picked some very specific scriptures and used that for a control mechanism, 100% for control mechanism.
Want to see the next Seeds of Awakening episode before it premieres on YouTube? Every paid Patreon membership level includes access to the SOA First Look Club. Join the community. Get the first look. Become part of the movement. Beacons.ai/SOA links. Link in bio.
Awakening isn't just something you experience, it's something you wear. Introducing Wear Your Awakening, the first clothing and merch collection from Seeds of Awakening. Signature designs. I Woke Up. The Crumbling Tower. Wear the message, plant the seed. Beacons.ai/SOA links. Link in bio.
Because even if it's not, that's not doctrinal necessarily, but it's a lifestyle belief. It's this lifestyle belief that's in the back of your mind. And
It's a
I think,
mindset that it's not a good thing to have money. The rich
yep,
person will not be successful in serving God.
exactly. And I'd like to add to this too. For especially those who grew up in the religion, the first 7 to 8 years of life are critical programming, brain training years. The brain is actually in a theta state for those first 7 to 8 years. A theta state is the exact same brain waves that are induced under deep hypnosis. So the mind of a child is an open sponge. I mean, we say that all the time, but understanding the science behind that literally means there is no critical thinking on any child. So when a child hears their parents come home and be like, man, you know what, there's never enough, or you got to work hard, or it's a dog eat dog world out there. And then you're going to meetings, or religion is hearing you say that, this poor rich man gave up meeting Jesus because he didn't want to give up. Okay, so all of that stuff literally is part of our programming. Literally, it's still part of our programming. So even when you leave the religion, you don't believe in 1914, you don't believe in the governing body, you leave the doctrinal stuff. But a lot of those money beliefs specifically, I mean, there's lots of different beliefs, but the money beliefs, since that's what we're talking about right now, they're ingrained in that programming, and we have to really update those if we want to be successful.
Mhm. So what's the first thing someone should do if they're thinking there's not enough money, or they don't have the education, or they aren't equipped to be good money managers, or they're not good at making money?
Well, I think it starts with understanding the power of your beliefs. And I think I'd like to explain a little bit about a belief, because a lot of times when I start talking about people's beliefs, they'll say, well, that's not a belief, that's true. Okay, so that's where we need to start. Whatever it
Mhm.
is that you think is true is not true. And here's the reason why. Your brain, we use the term confirmation bias a lot when we're talking about religion, which means that we're cherry picking information, like Armageddon. Anytime something horrible happens on the news, the Jehovah's Witnesses are immediately like, see Armageddon. It's because the brain is constantly looking to prove you right. Your brain's job is not to make you happy. Your brain's job is not to make you successful. The brain's job is to prove you right and to keep you safe. So the human brain is taking in approximately 11 million bits of data per second. And the unconscious mind is only able to filter about 40,000 bits of information. And then consciously, we're only aware of up to 40. So we're this massive satellite of 11 million bits of data down to 40,000, down to 40. So how does your brain choose which 40,000 bits of information out of 11 million to pick?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because you're literally throwing away 10,960,000 bits of information.
Mhm.
So how does your brain choose which pieces of information to pick? Well, it's based off of our belief system. So if you believe that it's hard to make money, you are literally programming your filter. We have the filter. I use the word the unconscious mind, but it's actually our reticular activation system. It's the filter in our brain that tells you what is relevant and what is not. So whatever it is that you believe, like, it's a dog eat dog world, you can't trust people, it's hard to make money, the economy is bad, your brain literally goes, tuk, 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 tuk. Here's 40,000 bits of information that prove you right. We ignore all that, 10,960,000 bits of information we are ignoring. And our brain is cherry picking the proof. And so then we're like, see, no, that's not a belief, that's true. But our brain is using confirmation bias to prove you right. So we literally have to take every single one of the truisms in our head and go, wait a second, what have I ignored? What do you mean? Nobody's successful. I mean, nobody without a college education ever gets ahead in life. I mean, once we start really thinking about what we think, we realize, well, wait a second, what other information could there possibly be that we didn't pay attention to? And that's where the neuro-linguistic programming came in, because they're like, with me personally, because there's very specific processes to go through to help change that reticular activation system so that our brain can sort for more information. Because what happens is there could literally be a gold mine right in front of you and you won't see it. We wonder why we can't wake up our family members with all of this extra information, right? So you give them all this proof and they go like this. Their brain literally filtered out everything that you just said because it doesn't match what their beliefs are. So you can imagine your family members, you're trying to wake them up and they go like this and they go right back to what they believe. You're doing that with money opportunities every single day for the exact same mechanism. It's not your fault. It's how your brain is programmed. And so we need to update that programming, because the truth is that there's opportunities all around us. We just have to filter for them. We have to learn to filter to see them. And it's not as simple as just one belief. It's a dog eat dog world. You have to work hard to make money. I always get, whatever those are. But there's other beliefs too, like our capabilities. There's a lot of people that believe, I'm not good at making money. I'm not good at sales. Those opportunities aren't for me. That's not the kind of person that I am. Other people can be successful, but that's not who I am. All of those we have to restructure too, because our identity our external world will be a reflection of our identity too. That's another thing that our brain will start sorting for. So, you probably heard of things like, affirmations and vision boards and stuff like that. Those work, but there's a big caveat to that. The brain's a little bit more complicated than just think happy thoughts and good things happen. It's a combination of also regulating our nervous system, making ourselves feel safe with new opportunities. Because the truth is, you can sit in front of the mirror and say, I'm a millionaire, I'm wealthy, all you want. As long as there's this little voice that says, what the hell are you talking about? No, you're not. That's a lie. That's not true. That little voice that's talking to us is what needs to be coached. That's what needs to be fixed. If you're presented with an opportunity, a big contract or something like that, and you feel your chest tighten up and your throat kind of go a little dry and this little gulp, that needs to be regulated, because we will self-sabotage unless we've regulated the nervous system to match the affirmations and the vision board, etc.
Yeah, before you started this conversation, I kind of asked you, what are you seeing with your clients? What issues are your clients seeing with your money and mindset are the top two things? So how are you helping people with those two things then?
Well, part of the reason I took a hiatus over the last couple of months too is because I end up having a lot of the same conversations with people over and over again.
Got kind of
So
repetitive.
I've created a course for manifesting. It's not just for manifesting wealth, it's an identity recreation course. How to recreate your identity from scratch, how to uncover the limiting beliefs that you have, how to create a new future. It's a self-paced course. And, talking about manifesting, here your little JW, 20-year regular pioneer. I truly believe that this is going to change. This is something that's going to change the world. The my YouTube videos that are going viral, the Facebook pages that are blowing up, it's because not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but people are begging for this kind of information. And I don't talk just from theory. I talk from coming from the gutter, man, from beaten into the floor. This isn't just, something I read out of a book. This is something that I did myself. And it sucked. I'm not going to lie. It really sucked. It wasn't an easy process. Healing is not it's not fun. It's not, oh, this is going to be so great. Let's recreate ourselves. No, this is a lot of
It's not,
soul
I'm going to be rolling now and celebrate holidays. Everything's going to
a
fall in
lot of
place.
soul searching. This is a lot of digging deep into yourself and going, okay, wait a second. I'm not worthy. I can't do this. I'm going to have to face that, stare it in the eyes and defy that in order to create something that's worth living, create a life that's worth living.
I mentioned part of it is recognizing that there is an issue, that you have a mindset issue too. It's realizing that you do have a challenge with how you think about things.
That is the number one problem I think I come across with people, because like I said, when I'm talking to people about what are our beliefs, they automatically say, it's not my belief, it's true. Well, that's not just a belief, that's true. The economy is bad. Prices are high. It's hard to make ends meet. Those things are true. Your brain is cherry picking that information for you.
It's not true for everyone. So why is it true for you?
Everyone. Yeah, well, and what happens is, we have our brainwashing from the religion, but unfortunately, there's also a lot of brainwashing from the news. News is not, commercials. The news was not created to empower you. The news was also created to scare you and take your power away. Whenever we're in survival mode, here's another thing too. So I talked about that reticular activation system, our filter that's giving us opportunities. Whenever we're in a scarcity mindset, whenever we're afraid or concerned, we have activated our amygdala. Okay. So the amygdala is kind of like our survival center. Whenever we're in survival mode, our cortisol levels spike and our prefrontal cortex goes offline. The brain cannot tell the difference between a lion going to eat you in 5 seconds and a bill that needs to be paid or financial stress. The brain does not register them different. It registers them as threats to your survival equally. So when a lion is about to eat you, you don't need your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is logic, long-term decisions, planning, strategy. When you have 5 minutes to live because a lion's going to eat you, you don't need any of that.
So your
prefrontal
run
is offline. Yeah. Unfortunately, most of us are running in that mode 24/7, which means that financial opportunities, long-term planning, all of that, you're literally not capable of making those decisions until you regulate that.
So how do you go? What do you need to do to get yourself in regulation to not be in that mindset? I guess not be in that mode.
Well, first of all, understanding that there's a problem. That's probably step number one. Understanding this is not natural. Well, understanding we're making the problem worse. We're creating the problem. Just like Jehovah's Witnesses are creating so much stress around Armageddon, all kinds of stuff like that. It is self-created disaster. And we, unfortunately, a lot of times we carry that out of the religion. Maybe we replace Armageddon with financial disaster or something like that. And part of understanding that this isn't just a religious problem, it's a neurological, biological problem. That's another thing too. In the religion, they look down on anything that's like meditation. Meditation is probably one of the easiest tools to get yourself out of that flight or fight mode.
It's breathing.
Yep, breathing. Yeah, 100%. The deep breathing. It all actually makes me wonder if maybe part of the reason why they didn't want us to do that is because they want us in the survival mode. They want us in disaster mode.
When I finally realized that Joe's Witnesses were on some BS, that was one of the first things I did was meditate. And
Me
soon
too.
after that, I did not have any of those thoughts in my mind.
Yep, exactly. So understanding that the fear and the stress that you're feeling, first of all, is fabricated. The truth is you're alive. The truth is you're not going to starve to death today. The truth is you have a roof over your head today. The truth is that right this instant, everything is okay. The truth is everything has always been okay, because how many times have you starved to death?
You wouldn't be alive if you had. No, never.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what? Even if you have been homeless before, you're still alive. You made it through
Mhm.
it. Truth is, you've made it through every disaster that life has ever given you. You've made it through it. So you start by just kind of realizing, okay, wait a second. Let me just take a deep breath, because the truth is right this second, I'm okay. And the truth is, you're probably going to be okay tomorrow too. The truth is, most of the fears that we have are fabricated fears for the future with no proof, just like Armageddon, that they're actually going to come true. You know, the truth is, you always figure out how to. We figure things out. We're very resourceful, and you know
Mhm.
what? Even if the worst thing does happen, like in my case, I've come to appreciate the disaster that I went through was actually the best thing that could have happened to me. So sometimes the things that we're fearing the most are exactly what we need to go through so that we can reach the next level, so that we can grow, so that we can morph into another version of ourselves.
Mhm. So, you shared a wealth of information. If someone wants to learn more about your course or contact you or learn more, where can they go?
They can go to my website, DeannaEliseMoore.com.
Make sure that we leave that in the description. The last thing I want to touch on is what role does gratitude play with changing your mindset? Because I know that's an important piece of it as well.
That is a huge important thing, because it's very difficult for cortisol and gratitude to live in the body at the same time. So gratitude is another huge technique for lowering your cortisol, taking your amygdala offline and putting that prefrontal cortex back online. So not just recognizing that you're okay, but letting yourself feel gratitude for being okay, letting yourself feel grateful that the truth is you're learning, you're growing, you're going to be okay. You know, as soon as you start entering into that zone, you can probably automatically almost feel your shoulders relax just a little bit. Maybe your stomach loosens up just a little bit. Those knots in your stomach aren't quite so horrible. And, you know, I talk a lot about our mindset, and the mindset's great. But the truth is that our biology, our physiology, our body is also an important thing that we have to regulate. We have to start regulating the energy. You know, the Heart Math Institute has done studies that show that the heart actually generates an electromagnetic field that extends about 3 feet outside the body. You know,
Mhm.
we are electrical beings, we are energetic beings, and fear, gratitude, love, optimism, all of those are energies that are literally measurable. You know, we're not just talking about some kind of, you know, woo-hoo mystical stuff. We're talking about it is scientifically measurably affects the world around us. So
Mhm.
learning to understand that we are not just the architects of our brain, but we also have to start learning to control and regulate the emotions. You know, we talk about intellectual IQ, but a lot of something that maybe we don't talk a whole lot about is emotional intelligence. Our emotional intelligence is learning to control our emotions. You know, I think that's probably the number 2 thing that I work on with a lot of people. It's like I'm in fear mode and I can't shut it off, and I've got digestion issues, and I've got blood pressure issues, and I have all these physical issues. You know, it's a well documented fact that stress makes us physically sick. And then how is that possible? It's because, like I said, we are energetic beings, and we've never been taught how to regulate that emotion, you know,
Mhm.
how to be happy. In fact, coming from cults, a lot of times we're taught just the opposite, that if you're somehow happy, You're not spiritual. How can you be happy when the world is a disaster and, everybody's miserable and everything's horrible and we're waiting for Armageddon so that someday in the future we can be happy. But we were so almost being happy was almost not really
Being
allowed.
satisfied it can always be put off to the future, some sort of future event.
Exactly. Well, and you
Mhm.
know what? Here's another belief too. Sighing and groaning over the detestable things. How are you supposed to be joyful if you're sighing and groaning over the detestable things at the same
Mhm.
time? No, and then I think lately, last, I don't know, decade or so, Jehovah's Witnesses have this slogan, the happiest people, or,
Or the best life ever, whatever it is.
there you go, the
Like
best life ever.
McDonald's. I'm loving
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Not
exactly,
really.
right? But it's such a I mean, it's such a mismatch. It's such a, because I look at their faces and they're like, happiest life ever, which they're totally not,
Mhm.
I think that's a slogan, that's a rebrand that the organization's trying to do, because the truth is the religion's full of a lot of depression. And why is it full of depression? Why is it full of mental issues, mental health issues? Because there is no emotional regulation. There is no permission to thrive. There's no permission to be happy.
Real quick, Gina, we're almost out of time, but give me a rapid fire list of what people can do to help with their mindset to realize they have a positive future ahead if they're just getting out of the cult.
Start reading as much as you can. Start reading about mindset. Start reading about the power of the mind. Start looking at people like Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, and start reading and educating yourself, because education is the one thing that we lacked. And that self-help category was absolutely something that was not discouraged. You are not allowed to help yourself. You're supposed to wait and let God help you. And that didn't work. That didn't work. And that's not how we were meant to live. So self-education is probably one of the first things I would recommend. If you've never read it before, or if it was forbidden in the religion, that's where you start.
All right. And nothing else, you can always go to Dina's website and learn more about her. She'd be happy to talk to you if you really need her help. So, Dina, I want to thank you so much. It's so good to see you
We'll be
again.
back next week.
All right.
Thanks for watching this Seeds of Awakening ExJW tale. Support the community by joining us on Patreon at beacons.ai/SOA links. Don't forget to comment, like, or subscribe, or keep the conversation going and watch another great episode now.